Carr, from what I looked at, was using two separate email addresses at different times. And when Dugan talks about a server migration, it lends me to believe that perhaps they omitted the early stages of the special counsel's office in May 2017. And they said, well, the lawsuit didn't say anything about if Carr was using his House or Carr was using his Senate, because he was linked in with Hatch before that. Carr could have been using his Senate email, or he could have been using another .gov email. I mean, he was using another .gov email besides the second one they set up. So
wait, you're saying he was working for Senator Orrin Hatch? Is that it?
I'm pretty sure he came right from Hatch to here.
Huh.
Well, Michael, there you have it. I mean, Hatch, on the surface appears to be a nice man, but let's remember Hatch was involved in the now infamous BCCI scandal.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Back in the 1990s. He's lucky he wasn't indicted. Hatch is pure establishment Republican, and I've always said that the establishment Republicans want basically to legally kill the president, Donald J. Trump, as much as the Democrats, because he's a threat to them. He's taken away their gravy train. He's taken away their power. And they want him legally dead, maybe even otherwise, as much as the Democrats. So the fact that Hatch's guy winds up with Mueller is no surprise.
Right.
Two are flip sides of the same coin, the Democrat and the Republican establishment.
Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody, but I've used the term Mormon mafia to describe a lot of the shenanigans that went on with McCain and Romney and Lee and Flake and Harry Reid. And I would put Hatch on the fringe of that. But this guy comes from Utah as well. This Carr comes from Utah.
I know you don't mean that in a discriminatory way.
No, I don't.
No, Mormons are good people, and I represent several of them. I'm working for me, so I know you don't mean that. But it's like the Jewish left, and I'm Jewish, Messianic, and others. I mean, these people are leftists. They're criminals in every group. And yes, there are mafias in every group, and these people, at least Harry Reid, is probably, in my view, the most corrupt senator in modern history.
Right.
With him. So.
No, I agree with you on that. But when you see this guy come out of the same, he went to BYU, he comes from the same mold as a lot of these guys, you're like, hey, wait a second, couldn't they have picked somebody from the East Coast? Yeah.
It's all too convenient, and birds of a feather flock together, as they say.
Exactly. So it gives you, and like I said, he was using two different email addresses. So maybe there's some kind of technicality where they didn't provide a lot of email addresses because of this quote unquote server migration glitch.
Right. It sounds like birds migrating to Alaska or something.
Right.
Well, but the truth is we're learning quite a lot about how technically minded individuals who are also aware of the law can come up with yet even more loopholes, right, Larry? I mean, obviously, if the guy says, well, we need 5 more days, you got to give him that because it is possible that he's not lying, but they seem quite skilled at knowing exactly when and where they can press the envelope just enough. I mean, even if Emmett Sullivan finds that these guys have misrepresented this, or maybe he can't demonstrate that they've misrepresented it, but they didn't have timely access to it, they're just, as you say, running out the clock, buying each day.
There's no consequence, Jason. Justice Department lawyers, and they're lawyers of the Special Counsel's Office because they're Justice Department lawyers too, they're basically above the law in reality because no one ever holds them accountable. The Office of Professional Responsibility doesn't unless you commit some major crime. Look, even Peter Strzok and Lisa Page haven't been held accountable, for criminality, which they clearly engaged in, nor the Inspector General of the Justice Department. And the judges also protect these Justice Department lawyers in the end. Even Judge Lambert, as critical as he was during my years in fighting the Clintons in the 90s and early 2000s, never did anything of major import against the Justice Department lawyers that were lying to him repeatedly, because these judges, most of them come from the Justice Department. I do too, and I'm not going to protect them, but the judges will protect them, and they know that they can get away with these shenanigans in the end. Now, what we want, in addition to justice, are the documents. And What's evident in the production is there are huge gaps of time in the production. There's not really much that's present. It goes back to Mike Flynn when he was being investigated and indicted. It goes back to when the special counsel's office was being constituted with all these leftist hack prosecutors. But it's not dealing with up to the time that, we filed this FOIA request, and there are huge gaps in that. And we know that virtually every day, to this very day, there is information coming out about grand jury proceedings in the Office of Special Counsel. Now, how did that happen? It's not in the best interest of the targets and subjects of these investigations to leak. It harms their reputation, prevents them from getting other employment. They have their lawyers, it prevents them from getting clients potentially because they're at risk. So none of this, is kosher, so to speak. Right. And it's going to require a lot of pressure and a lot of action by Judge Sullivan to disgorge all of this stuff. Probably it's going to require another computer expert to recreate deleted emails and to look on private servers, which clearly these people do. They use their private emails for things they don't want other people to see. But if they're doing government business, it was within the scope of our Freedom of Information Act request and should be produced.
Well, it's another thing that you're shining the light on here, Larry, is that, we've heard about it, of course, with Hillary Clinton, but now we see other people doing similar things. We're sort of learning about the standard operating procedure where people are employing these technical loopholes to be able to avoid this type of FOIA action. Is there a particular email, or Michael, is there anything you'd like to go to that we could bring up on screen and talk about specifically? I'm sure we're going to have a lot of articles and a lot of video episodes coming out of this trove of information, but maybe there's something we could sort of dig into right now while we've got Larry on the phone.
Let me jump in real quickly and I'll
Sure.
turn it over to Michael. There was an email of Monday, July 17, 2017 to Caitlin Polantz, P-O-L-A-N-T-Z, from Special Counsel Press. And in this, there's one before that even from Ms. Polantz, who writes, Peter Carr, the spokesman, yes, that's fine with us. Thus, we won't consider it, quote, off the record, i.e., we'd forget whatever you say, but are happy to agree that nothing would be attributable to you or to the office. Okay, so, that's the dealing that's going on, basically. And that's why Peter Carr has these meetings in all likelihood off campus, because then he spews, and he spews orally, and there's no writing of it. These people aren't stupid people. They don't want a written record of these grand jury and other confidential leaks.
Right. And I'm having a difficult time bringing these emails up quickly because we've got some performance issues over here today, very coincidentally timed with the release of this information. So, Larry, what can be done to prevent this kind of behavior? Is there anything?
Well, we're trying to do it at Freedom Watch. These people should be indicted in a citizen's grand jury, tried, convicted, sentenced, and frankly, asking the president to enforce those sentences, have them arrested, or at least have them investigated by people that he should appoint. We need a second special counsel to deal with this. That's why I have volunteered to do that. You can see at freedomwatchusa.org, sign the petition. I hope the president snaps out of it. It reminds me, I wrote a column last week, the movie Moonstruck. You remember the chair told Nicolas Cage he was in love with her and slapped him and said, snap out of it.
Right.
And this president is in love with his lawyers that he found on Fox News, okay? And that's how he does his search. And I love the president. I'm not making fun of him, but he's got to get some lawyers who are go on the offense and who are tough and who will pursue these things. And he needs a second special counsel. Now, there's a good sign. In the last day, he's declassified some documents dealing with the Steele FISA warrant and everything else. But he
Now,
needs to
wait,
go further than that.
were they declassified, or was it that President Trump was calling for them to be declassified?
They were declassified, but it's going to take a while because now that he did that, the Justice Department and the intel agencies and the FISA court are going to drag their heels.
Right.
We may all be dead by the time anybody sees them. This is
Right. So that's what I mean. They're declassified, but effectively they're still not available for anybody to see, right?
They won't be
Not
available
yet.
many months.
Many months. I see. Okay.
Larry brought up a great point about somebody independent to take a look at what's going on, because an Achilles heel of something like this would be, just from an investigative standpoint, a guy like Carr. If we subpoenaed, if I was working the case and we subpoenaed, and this was part of the intel dump we got, and I looked through it, within a half an hour, I would say, I want to see this guy's phones. I want to see his phones. I want to see his cell phones. I want to see who he's calling. I want to see how long he's on the phone with. I want to see what time he's called, how many texts. I want to see that, right? And I don't. Larry's case deals with emails, and I don't even think legally you're entitled to that. But in a criminal probe, you're entitled to that. I want to see who this guy is talking to, how many phones he has, and then I want to see that for everybody who's on the team. I want to see who they're talking to. I want to see their Wi-Fi. I want to see it all. Find out what the hell's going on here.
You raised a really good point, and we go back to our FOIA request. I always use the language refer or relate in any way to communications with the media. That would include telephone records.
Right.
We didn't get telephone records, okay? Billing statements from Verizon or whatever the carrier is. So that was withheld as well, and that'll tell you a whole story about the frequency of communications and what was said over the phone that we don't have in writing.
Now, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're talking about communications with the press in general, and you've got text messages that clearly indicate he's meeting with these people at Starbucks and wherever he's going, those are communications with the press as well. I don't know how we can FOIA a private conversation that's not recorded, but I guess what I'm getting at is, can this behavior be seen as a conspiracy to obstruct justice if these guys are going through loopholes to not use the standard channels?
Yes, it's a conspiracy to obstruct justice. And insofar as, and I can't emphasize this enough, the liberal law professor Alan Dershowitz said many times in the last week or so that the leaking of grand jury information is criminal.
Yeah.
And that's why if we can expose this now, Mueller's gone. He'll melt faster than the Wicked Witch of the West. He'll be gone. And if nothing else, if he doesn't have to resign, along with his corrupt prosecutors like Andrew Weissman, the president will then have cover to fire him, uncontested cover to get rid of him. Right. And that's why I thought that this was the most important Freedom of Information Act request that had been filed, by any group, because people are people, boys are boys, girls are girls. They're going to leak information, and they can't resist. And I'm convinced that it's there. I'm convinced that evidence of Mueller and his staff's criminality is there somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, about these leaks that come out every day.